Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bradford Cloud User Group. This is our May podcast, and I'm joined by Imran today. Sajid unfortunately can't make it, but hello, Imran. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good. It's been a while since a few weeks since we spoke. How's work, family? Okay.
Yeah. All good. Looking forward to this next guest.
Yes, me as well. And that brings me on to introduce our next guest. So a big, massive welcome from the Bradford Cloud User Group to Gwyneth Pena-Siguenza. Hi, Gwen. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing great. Thank you for the invite. Very excited to chat at least a little bit with you all today.
No, thanks for making time. It's we had a bit of a delay. I think you weren't too well, so it got delayed. But we're really happy to have you on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate the flexibility, of course. I always appreciate doing things like these, getting to meet other people. It's especially in these times, it's a nice little separation from your day and from your work. So I'm excited.
How are you feeling now? Are you fully recovered?
I wouldn't say fully recovered. So I had my second dose of my vaccine on Thursday, and I was fine kind of going into Friday, and then after that I was just completely out for the weekend. And before that, I also had I was feeling kind of off as well. So I think that it was just like a pile of things. And today I'm sort of a little back on my feet. I still have like body aches and stuff, but it's just getting better at least.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So for those that don't know you, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Gwen Pena-Siguenza. I am a training architect at a cloud guru. Prior to that, I was a cloud engineer at a sort of like a medium-sized startup kind of company. And I also make cloud computing related videos on my YouTube channel, though lately it's been more sort of like these video essays on my career and experiences and stuff. And I got into tech through like a support role, like help desk, and kind of just worked my way up and self-taught pretty much everything. I'm an Azure MVP as of last year. I think that's me.
Yeah. We can see the frame in the background there. The MVP.
Yes. Oh, it's this one. Yeah.
That's fine. Excellent. Yeah, I know I've been following your YouTube content for a while now. Some amazing content, and you blew up quite big actually. At one point, you had like thousands and thousands of subscribers. Am I right? Did you start all over again? Did you start from scratch again?
No, I took a break in a sense. Like back in December, I had experienced, just because so I started last year, and it was just every single week I was just committed to doing a video or two. Yeah. And I didn't really have a goal. I just wanted to get into the flow and just learn. Like, it's not just like you have to learn the content, you have to learn how to make it, editing and all that kind of stuff. And towards the end of the year, when I joined ACG, I decided that I wasn't going to be able to keep up with that pace. So I just took a break from YouTube and things like that. But the channel's been, though the growth has like slowed down a little bit, it's still there. I'm close to like 10K now. But over last summer, that's when like stuff really just catapulted. Scott Hanselman had me on Azure Friday, and that was just like another thing that kind of blew up my channel as well. But yeah, overall, like the community has been so supportive with the stuff that I've been doing. So I owe a lot of it to the community.
Yeah, I've noticed because I follow you on Twitter, and I've noticed you're a role model to quite a few people. For quite a lot of people. I've seen them tweet about you, and kind of they're always thanking you. You've supported them, So yeah, you're doing a great job.
I appreciate that. Role model might be a strong word there, but
I think you are.
I appreciate that. It's interesting because I never that was never the goal. I'm very honest when I say I started creating content out of like a selfish reason, because it was just for me, really. It was because I was on a small cloud team. It was really just my boss, another person, and myself, and I didn't have that be able to go back and forth with notes and kind of stuff. So I said I would just do a video about it, that way I can reference it later. So it's funny how it's turned into something that is somewhat different than what I originally started it for. But thank you. I appreciate the feedback.
It's interesting you actually say that, that your reason for starting your content. And I was on I recorded you know Johnny Chips, he does the Azure library stuff.
Yeah,
you might have been on it. I think I recorded it in conversation with him yesterday, and he asked me a similar question: why did you start your YouTube content? And I said, to be honest with you, it's my way of expressing myself.
right.
It's almost like it sounds weird, but it's like an art form for me. It's how I express. I've got all these thoughts in my head around what I do day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that as well? Is that similar for yourself?
To an extent, yes. I think specifically like video content is better for me because I'm quite like I like to use the tone of my voice and my hands and all that kind of stuff to express myself and to explain things better. But I also think there's some sort of level of abstraction that as content creators we apply to the stuff we make. Like, and I've been trying to like break that. Like with the video essays that I do, like I'm trying to give you more of like the human, not just the tech into it. And that I think like video is such a great platform to do that kind of stuff. But at the very beginning, it was a little bit more produced. It was more like I'm trying to be as professional as I can. I'm trying to be as like I come off as an expert and all that kind of things. But later on, as I've shifted and evolved, it's more like, yeah, I'm just trying to be myself and show some things and share some knowledge, really.
Yeah, good job.
Excellent. You touched on earlier your own journey with IT and cloud. Tell us a bit more about how that journey started, and you know, you mentioned a couple of the points earlier. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I was living in South America, in Ecuador, when it was my time to sort of decide. I was a senior in high school, about to graduate, and decide what I wanted to do with my life, you know. and it was a lot of pressure, but I decided to go into computer science in college, and I think I did almost 2 full semesters, and then I dropped out for like a bunch of reasons, but mainly it just didn't feel like the right model for me to learn. So then I ended up moving back to the States, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do? I didn't have like any experience at all working anywhere, let alone tech. So I landed a job at an Apple store, like doing like mobile support kind of things, like, you know, working with iPads and iPhones and that kind of stuff. And I did that for about 1.5 years, and I got totally tired because I'm not sure if, well, everyone's kind of aware, like retail and support roles, people don't tend to treat you that nice.
Yeah.
And I just got tired of that. So then I quit, and I was like, oh, I got to do something else. And it was kind of just like, oh, well, I'm kind of in tech, so I should just lean more into that. Really, it was never like the dream job or anything like that. I just kind of like rolled with what I had to work with. Then I landed like a support analyst role, but that role was great. Though I hated it at the time, and again, it's because of how like people treat support roles. I look back at it, and it's like one of the roles where I got some exposure to so many different things. Like I got into like some scripting stuff there. I got some hardware support expertise there. And there were people there that were working with AWS, and I had no idea what any of that stuff was. And the person, like I was like setting up like a desktop for this person, and they were just telling, like, we would just have casual chit chat, because I'm someone who likes to have conversations. Like I don't want like to be just awkwardly in silence there. I'll just be like, hey, what are you working on? That kind of stuff. And it's great because I'd also be able to have those conversations with like the CEO or the CFO and kind of get that kind of insight. So anyway, I was talking to this person who was, I think they were like a web developer there. And they were showing me, like, they were, I think, doing something with EC2. And yeah, they showed me that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I've never heard of cloud. And at the like company that I worked at, they would pay for your certification. So it would give you like, I think it was like a $500 a year or something like that to get certified. And I had asked my peers, like, like, which certifications are you going for? Because I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do. And they would all say things like A+ or Network Plus and those kind of things. And I looked into them, but none of them intrigued me enough to be like, oh yeah, this is what I want to go for. So anyway, yeah, I talked to the person who was working with AWS, and then I asked my boss there, like, hey, if I had free time, like if I get all my work done, would you let me just, you know, sit down with this person for like an hour a week and just see what they're doing? And they said, yeah, totally. So after that, I got sort of like, not necessarily hands-on, but I got to see them working inside of like database console, that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, like, that seems pretty cool, because they would manage a lot of infrastructure just from their laptop. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. So yeah, and then I got AWS certified. I think I got the developer associate. I'm pretty sure it's expired by now. But yeah, that's the first one I got, and I tried to like, you know, get as much hands-on as I can. But like thinking that was probably like 4 years ago, so there's not as much content as there is now. Like now there's like so much out there that you can use to learn. Back then it wasn't as accessible as it is today. And I just remember, like, I think Lambda was one of the first services that I played with, and I was just like so confused, but at the same time very, very intrigued and interested. So I got certified, and then after a couple months I felt comfortable. I was like, I'm just gonna go try to find jobs that don't necessarily have like cloud engineer or cloud anything in the role, but that will give me exposure. So I paid attention a lot to the job descriptions, and I found this role that was like a sysadmin, and I interviewed for it, and I talked about like my interest in cloud and my certification, that kind of stuff, and they hired me. They gave me a chance, and they were an Azure shop. And when I first started there, I was like, well, no, I want to lean into AWS. Like all the cool people are using AWS and that kind of stuff. So my then boss was like, you can like work on our Azure environment. Like I'll let you do like these things. Like you can help me with these things. So I just leaned into that again, using whatever I had available to me. I was like, all right, I guess now I go down this path. But that first year there as a sysadmin, I volunteered as much as I could to be on any project, overtime, weekends, whatever, like just to get the exposure and things like that. After a year, I ended up getting promoted to cloud engineer, and then my time there was a lot more focused just on our Azure environment and those kinds of things. And yeah, last year in March, like when the pandemic started, that's when I started my YouTube channel and just, you know, documenting like the Azure things that I was working on. It was primarily Azure Functions then. And yeah, I think that comes up. And then I left that cloud role back in July or August, around that time. So I'd realized that I always thought that once I hit like engineer role, that was going to be like the best, like that's what I want for my life. So once I did, I thought to myself, like, this isn't really, I don't really feel like a special, but I found that I was getting fulfilled when I was creating the content that I was making. Yeah. So I left my cloud gig, and then I started making more content, and then started looking for roles that would allow me to do that full time. And that's when I joined ACG, and it's where I'm at now.
Wow,
that's
really, that's an amazing story.
You know, Summer, I was just thinking, you're obviously in the perfect role as a trainer because you do training as well.
Yeah.
We can actually listen to you for ages. Seriously. It was really interesting. You've obviously been through this cloud journey. You decided that you obviously wanted to go into AWS, but then you went into Azure. Right. What advice would you give to someone who now wants to take that same journey? They want to get into cloud. After your experience, is there a kind of a shortcut or a quick way of getting into this cloud journey? And what would you recommend?
I think the shortcut now is like you don't have to piece together the things that you need to learn. There are like a lot of learning paths and roadmaps out there. Like I think like something like if you go on to like a Microsoft certification, like let's take like the 204, like in the page of their certification below, they'll have everything outlined that you need to learn, right? That wasn't necessarily available back when I got started. So like all the content and all the things that you need to learn is like freely, a lot of it is free, like available out there for you to learn. I would say that's your first one, like, and make sure you're trying different things out, because I can say like I studied for this and I did this, and that might not work for you because you learn in different ways. Like you need more video, you need more text, whatever it is, right? So try things out and don't be afraid to try things out. Another thing I would say is be patient with yourself. I remember like when I was in my help desk role and I was just only a couple months in, I was thinking like, oh, this is a waste of time. Like, why am I doing this? Like, I want something different for myself. But that ended up leading me to where I'm at now. And I kind of made the time like harder on myself by having that mindset of like, oh, I just want fast. So definitely be patient for yourself. And the third one is, there's no secret. There's no way of me telling you like you take this and like you're gonna get a 6-figure job in cloud. And if anyone does tell you that, they're lying to you. Like I can't promise you. And this is always the approach that I try to take when I create like my videos on my channel. It's like, I'm here to tell you my experiences and things that have worked for me. I'm not here to tell you what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different things that come into like landing a job, like your location, like how much risk are you willing to take, like things like that, right? One thing I will say is this: if you're open to it, support roles, help desk roles, really are like the barrier to entry it's a lot easier than like your typical like other tech roles, and they tend to give you exposure to a bunch of different areas, right? If you can go through like having some time like doing a help desk role, I think it's useful, definitely. But yeah, just like find content that works for you. There's a lot out there. Study every day if you can. Be patient with yourself and be open to different kinds of roles. Because if your goal is to be in cloud, you're gonna get there. It's just like the way to get there isn't going to be the same for everybody. Yeah, that's probably like my best advice.
That's some really invaluable advice. One thing I just want to touch on, you mentioned it in your previous and different answer to the last question, was you were always putting your hand up to do things. You were always, and I don't think that means that you can always try and work as much as you can. I think it's what that shows is enthusiasm, and that's something I try and tell people, especially graduates who have just come out of university or doing an apprentice. We have apprenticeships in the UK. And what advice I give them, and similar to what you said, is show enthusiasm. Try and get involved. It might even be in a little way, but try and get involved or be eager to learn and get involved in things. I think that's what you touched on as well earlier.
Absolutely. Funny story there is, for the interview for the sysadmin job, there was so I had interviewed with someone and then who was going to be like my direct boss. And then we had like a 5-minute period where it wasn't like the interview, but we were waiting for someone else to come in. And that person, with my then boss, he asked me like, oh, what kind of books are you reading? Just like casual chat. Yeah. And I had mentioned that I was reading the Phoenix Project. I'm not sure if you're aware, like the most popular DevOps book out there. But then he mentioned like, wow, I'm reading that book at the same time. So then we have sort of this bonding moment over that book. And I had only been interested in that because, I wanted to know more about these things, and on my free time, I was reading stuff like that. And then we had a bonding moment there, and we talked about that. And then later on, after like a couple of months in the role, he said, "Yeah, like because you were reading that showed me that you're not just doing this for a job. Like you're genuinely interested, and that's the kind of people that I want." Yeah. And yeah, definitely show that you are willing to put in the work. And put in the work. Like you can have a GitHub, you can have public like projects and stuff like that, and be able to talk about those things that you're reading, maybe some blog posts or some podcasts that you listen to. If you can bring up those things, I think those are going to get you like some points on whoever makes decisions on where like you can get promoted and stuff like that. I used to annoy my boss then every week because I would listen to a bunch of Azure podcasts and cloud podcasts and tell, hey, did you hear about this? Hey, did you hear about this? Until he would like let me work on stuff. So
that's a great point. What's your opinion around, so with people starting their cloud journey, do you recommend experience and training over certifications, or a mixture of both, or one or the other? What's your opinion on that?
I think a nice balance of both. I think 1 to 2 certifications, and then just a lot of hands-on and a lot of see, I encourage people to document in however they feel comfortable with online, like if that's a blog, if it's a YouTube channel, if it's a podcast. But I also don't want to push it on anybody. But if that's something that you might be interested in, I think it's definitely a great thing to add. So you take your 2 certifications, you take like an associate level and a professional, or maybe like an entry level, like a cloud practitioner or an AZ 900, something like that, and then you take an associate level. I think those give you not only like a good starting point, but in like a defined like learning path, but also they cover such like, there's a lot of material there that you can take the time to realize which area you're interested in. And as you're going through the material, you're like, oh, this one sounds a little too like not what I'm into, but this one over here, like this service, yeah, I'm really interested in that. And then you piece together the things that you're more interested in, and then you keep learning. And definitely get like hands-on projects, put them on your GitHub, make a video talking about it, make a blog post talking about it, or do a tweet thread or anything like that. And just like keep going, right? I would say, there are people who take like certifications non-stop. Like every month they take a new certification every 2 weeks. If you go on LinkedIn, that's pretty much all it is about. And I'm not necessarily against that, but I don't think that's necessary for you to learn or to land a job. Like the certification I had, the AWS one, did help me on my first like landing the sysadmin role, but now it's just like, it's all about the experience and all about the things that I can talk about. And my YouTube channel has been just insane for like landing interviews, for landing consulting opportunities, for landing like being invited on shows like this kind of stuff, which is why I'm sort of biased, like, hey, like document your journey. But yeah, a nice balance of certs, hands-on, and documenting your journey.
Excellent.
It's interesting. You talked about, blog content, and it's like a walking, talking CV, isn't it? You can just say, here's what I've done, and you can see it in action. You can see my YouTube content. Here's my blog post, and it just shows what you're about. So yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's only in addition, and if you do it, if you're being authentic if you're being yourself, and you're not trying to show things that you're not, it can only work in your favor, right? And since you've made it from scratch, you know what you're talking about. You're going to be able to talk about these things in and out at an interview or at a conversation. Yeah, I don't see why. It's time consuming, absolutely, but I think it's worth it.
I've got a question about DevOps. It seems to be a hot topic at the moment.
Right.
So people that work in kind of IaaS, they're like, I want to get into DevOps. And what would you recommend for someone who actually says, I want to get into DevOps? What is DevOps, and why is it so hot at the moment? Why is it important for someone, or is it important for someone to go into DevOps today and learn that side?
Yeah. So I think the whole DevOps conversation is an interesting one, because it's one of those areas where I think we focus too much on tools and the names of tools and services, and we forget that what actually DevOps is, whereas it's a methodology to help developers and operations work better together, right? So you can be improving like this whole DevOps culture that you have at your company simply by providing like more conversations or better relationships between those teams. So there's not like a wall, like DevOps throws this over to ops, like dev throws this over to ops, and like you guys take care of this, and you girls take care of this kind of stuff, right? So I think the first point there is to realize DevOps isn't necessarily a set of tools. It's more like how teams work and run together, right? Step two, I think, so the good thing now is that a lot of certifications are now including DevOps topics in the outlines. So if that's something that you wanted to get into, I would say first take a step into like infrastructure things, like administrating infrastructure, knowing your way around like a Azure portal or AWS console, those kinds of things, and knowing what it is that you're trying to deploy or you're trying to put into version control, whatever it is. Because if you go straight into like, say, like a DevOps thing, like infrastructure as code, I think you're gonna get lost because you don't necessarily know what's happening, right? So get your like standing into what infrastructure actually is. I speak in certification language all the time. Like I say, like a 104 is useful for this, or the AWS what is it, the solutions architect one, the associate level one. Like those will give you a good like a solid foundation in that. And then you can look into things like infrastructure as code, like monitoring, version control, all those kinds of things. Don't get too lost in like service names and things like that. A lot of the cloud providers have their own native DevOps tooling, and then there are also like popular ones that are multi-cloud, like your Terraforms and your Dockers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, get hands-on with infrastructure, know what exactly it is that you want to deploy, and then research like, okay, how do I automate this? And then you'll probably find some blog posts that'll teach you that kind of stuff too. And then just remember that DevOps is there for devs and ops to work better together. Yeah, and it's not necessarily fighting over, hey, should we use Terraform or not, kind of thing, right?
Right. Great answer.
Yeah, again, great advice. I think you've answered two questions in one there. That was quite good. we've obviously spoken quite a bit about your journey and how what you've come from to get to where you are. So I wanted to just touch on where you are now, which is obviously A Cloud Guru. I've used them in the past for loads of amazing content, especially around AWS. That's always what when I think of A Cloud Guru, I always kind of think about AWS because that's kind of what a majority of their content was.
Right.
What can you tell us a bit about that new? Because it's essentially that's a new challenge in your life, and
right.
And you know who's your target audience there, and how are you finding that?
Yes, I started at ACG back in December, November, I think, around that, and my goal was to make short form like tutorials. So it's pretty much what I was doing on my own YouTube, but doing it for like a much larger platform, and then anything from introductory level to like mid level, nothing too advanced, because I really like the target of like people who want to get their foot in the door to people who want to like upskill. And then once you're I think mid to higher level, I think for there it's pretty easy for people to find their way, like what they need to go through the documentation kind of stuff. So I like to focus on the other levels. So anything from like AWS to Azure to Linux to that kinds of thing, like I'll create content around that. And also the fun things like Azure news or AWS news, Linux news, that kind of stuff. It's challenging because I think I was used to having like full creative control over like absolutely everything that I've published, and then going into a team where we have like editors and producers and people looking at your scripts and all that kind of stuff. And then I remember getting my first piece of feedback, and I felt some kind of way. I'm not gonna lie. Whenever you get feedback, like as much as we try to like be like, yeah, feedback is great, it does kind of make you feel some kind of way. So my biggest challenge was getting over that. Like, all right, I'm here with a team, and I'm here to be a better, training architect. So I need to like lean into the team, and like they're in their roles and they have their strengths, for a reason. Yeah. So like learning to work inside of like content, like technical content with a team, that was probably the biggest challenge. But it's great. I've enjoyed it. I'll let you in on a little secret. This week is actually my last week at A Cloud Guru. It's been a short 6 months, but it's been an absolutely great time. I've met like a bunch of people who I'm going to continue being friends with. Now I'm on to like taking a little break, just because I don't want to burn out before I move into my next role, which I haven't announced yet. Once I'm ready to like get out of like the resting kind of vacation mode, I'll talk about it. But it's a DevRel position. That's all I'll say for now. But yeah, I mean,
that needs to be announced on your YouTube channel. When you are ready to announce it, you need to do there for that. I'll tell you what, I can imagine loads of people will tune into that.
Absolutely, yeah. Right now, I just want to. Since I haven't had it like a long break, since maybe like getting like the first like to Apple Store job. Like I don't think I've gone more than like taking like a week off or something between work. So I want to take like maybe like 2-3 weeks before I jump into the next one. But it's a sad thing because with ACG, they're all about community. They're all about like putting like, especially with like the content that I was working on, it was all free. And I that's honestly like what I want to continue doing with my career, and just providing these resources for anybody and everybody, because that's what I wish I had when I was getting started. But yeah, exciting times. I'm sad but very excited.
So this is probably going to be published tomorrow. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. No, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I've noticed that you've got obviously I follow you on Twitter. You're running a Cloud Guru challenge. It's like an online CV in a website.
Right.
And I took a look at that. I've noticed loads of people are tweeting about it. There's some really impressive online websites that people have created.
Right.
Could someone like me with no coding experience do that, or would I struggle?
So the way I built it, I try to provide as many resources as possible. There's like a starter repo that you can clone, and then you can there's a lot of links in there, and a lot of like me writing in notes there, hey, you might want to do this kind of stuff. I think you can. Okay. It's nothing that's like deep into coding or anything like that. Right. but it's just enough to get your feet wet. There's also like a full video solution that we just released. I think it was last week. So if there's any step that you get stuck on, you can tune in there, find the right chapter there, and figure it out. So absolutely. And I'm very glad people are participating in that. I when I first did it, I was like, oh, no one's going to do this. I was kind of nervous. But yeah, those are the kind of things that I want to keep doing. If that's at my next role, or if it's on my own, I want to keep making these projects where people can participate in them, add them to their GitHub, and then be able to talk about them at interviews or anywhere really.
Right. Yeah, I think I might give it a try. I looked at it. I'm kind of good at WordPress. WordPress is all GUI, isn't it? So it's not difficult. But it's something I want to get into. I've started doing some Terraform with Azure. And I kind of looked at it and I said, I'm all right with websites, but it's not obviously that kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. And then I backed off a bit. But I think I will. I'll give it a try.
Totally should. And let me know once you do make any kind of progress.
Everyone's tweeting it out there with you in there, and I've seen loads of impressive ones.
They're way. I have no front end abilities at all. Like I can't make anything look decent unless I like copy from someone else, and then I see these people have submitting them, and their designs are just amazing. I'm just blown away, right? It's very cool, very inspiring to see how people, take time out of their busy work schedules to like do things because they want to have another project or they want to improve their skills. So it's kind of like a full circle. Like I provide, but the community also provides for me. So it's great.
And it's not just a CV. It's a CV where you can go to your employer and say, I built that from scratch, or or I've been involved with this, and it just again it shows your skill set, doesn't it?
Exactly. Someone had told me in the Discord, like the ACG Discord, they said like, hey, like I sent this to I think it was like a hiring manager or something, or they had spoken to a hiring manager or something like that, and they said that like they were impressed, like because they were able to talk about the project in and out, like every single service, and I built it around like having not too in depth in any service, but a little bit of everything that you would see in an actual full blown production application. Yeah, I mean, I'm just very, very happy overall with seeing the participation.
Is there a deadline for this particular?
Yeah, so the deadline to submit it and then get sort of like LinkedIn endorsements and like be able to be part of this swag giveaway is May 31st, which is I think that's like next Monday or something like that.
Yeah.
But you can, there's a bunch of Cloud Guru challenges that you can just go through and do. And then I'm sure on social media, they'll always be sharing that kind of stuff too. But the only thing that you lose by not getting in by the deadline is the LinkedIn endorsements and the swag giveaway. That's pretty much it.
Okay, but apart from that, it's ongoing. And
of course, I mean, if you share it with me, I'm always gonna, no matter when, I'm always gonna take a look at it and share it and shout it out for sure.
Oh, nice.
We've obviously focused quite a bit on your journey and how you came into cloud. So I want to take a step away from that and just do a bit of community talk. Mm-hmm. You're very modest, but as far as we're concerned, you're very well deserved Microsoft MVP. We can see that amazing frame in the background as well. How did that journey for you go? How did that start, and how have you found that journey around being a Microsoft MVP?
Yeah, it's I to be honest, it's something that it wasn't ever a goal, and that's not to say that I think like I don't deserve it or anything like that. It was just never the same thing with like my YouTube channel. It was never like I didn't ever want it to turn into what it did. It just sort of happened as like a consequence of the things that I was doing. And the opportunities and the people that I've met because of it's just amazing. Like that's like the best part of it. Like sure, I have the award that says like, yeah, I know this kind of stuff, I guess. But meeting like fellow MVPs and being part of like communities and being part of like the insider on Microsoft services and seeing things before they happen, that's like really cool. And if anything, it just serves as I look at it because it's always like behind me. I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta work harder. I gotta keep this MVP status, right? But as far as like how I got it, I don't really have like because I do get people who ask me like, oh, how can I become an MVP? And it's like, it's not really a defined role or anything like that. It's just you put out quality content, consistent quality content. And because I remember I had gotten like nominated. You have to get nominated for it. I got nominated for it back in February of last year, and I had like maybe like 1 or 2 videos for it, and then I got rejected, and I was like totally fine. But then I had started making like 1 to 2 videos every week, and then I wasn't really thinking about MVP or anything like that. And then in July I got nominated again, and I think I had like 30-ish videos by then or something like that, and building the following, all that kind of stuff. And then I got nominated by 2 people from inside of Microsoft, and then that's when I did actually get the award. So yeah, like create content around whatever area of Microsoft that you enjoy, and put it out there. Share it, of course. If not, no one's gonna see it. And you just keep working. Like don't in a way, don't focus on it. Like it'll come if you're being like true and like you have good content.
That's echoing what we've had several people guess that same question. I might stop asking it because everybody says the same thing. But it's not something you should aim for. And it's,
right. Yeah.
Like, it's not a job. It's not. Yes, it comes with a lot of acclaim, and it comes with it's nice to get, and it shows that the content you are doing is appreciated. But it's not something you should aim for, and because if you do that, then it's like you're doing community for the wrong reason.
Exactly.
It's not about that. So that, again, it's interesting to hear that. Man, we've got to take that question off from now on, because it's the same answer for everyone. And it's, it's really good to hear that everybody in the community feels the same way around that.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Excellent.
Yeah. So talking of community, you've obviously done so much in a very short time. You obviously exploded, like Shabazz said earlier. How do you balance your personal life with the work you do for the community?
That's a good question. So it's like for work I do cloud videos, and then for a hobby I do cloud videos. So it's kind of hard to find a balance there. Lately, what I've been doing is like I mentioned, like the video essays where I'm more talking about like experiences. Like I've made videos about like failing certifications, like some goals that I have for this year, the biggest mistake I made as a cloud engineer, my journey, all that kind of stuff. Like, so just like I sit down and talk to the camera and those kind of things, and that helps me. Okay, I don't have to be too technical. I can just talk about things that I've gone through. That's a nice little like separation there. Like I'm not always in like learning or coding something or deploying something kind of thing and recording it. But apart from that, I try to set about like 2 hours in the morning for myself where I'm just doing things for myself. Like I'm reading, I'm journaling, I'm going out, I'm having breakfast with my mom or something like that. Or I just got a new puppy, so I have to walk him all the time. Just being away from everything. And then once it hits 9 o'clock, it's like, all right, it's go time. It's time to like log on, open the laptop and work. And yeah, sometimes I fail at it. And that's the reality that, sometimes we're going to burn out. Sometimes we're going to get sucked into work and we can't find ways to get out of it. Sometimes we're going to be in a slump and not have any video ideas. And I guess part of actually having a balance is accepting that. And you can't always be perfect, and you can't always have the best habits and the best procedures and the best routines. But as long as you're trying, I think that's more than enough for myself.
Yeah, I've found recently on Twitter, people are burning out because they're just doing so much.
Exactly.
And it's obviously important to have that, but I've come across people that are just burning out. Just totally.
I think that's due to the pandemic as well, Imran. That a lot of people I've spoken to said the same thing: virtual burnout, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's one thing we found with our user group. So we only launched this in it's not even been. We were on our fourth or fifth meetup in a couple of days. So it's not been long. And we've found engaging people really difficult. I think because we've started it towards the back end of the pandemic, people are getting a bit tired of virtual content, not YouTube videos. People love YouTube, but as far as in the virtual user groups, So we're looking forward to getting in person, like I'm sure most people are.
Yeah, it's hard. That's a good thing that you mentioned. It's hard to find that division where it's like the only thing that separates you from your work is just closing your laptop, and I mean that's like such an easy thing to not do, versus like before you had the commute and that kind of stuff. But I mean, we can only hope for this thing to get better, hopefully sooner, and just keep being nice to each other, keep supporting each other, and hope to see each other soon in person.
Exactly. Just want the final point that we really want to just touch on is you've obviously given us a massive exclusive with telling us about that you're going to be with our group, so we appreciate that. What's next in your cloud journey? So I don't mean your professional, I mean from a community perspective. Are there any technologies that you're thinking, wow, you know what, that's what I want to look at next, or what's next in your journey, I suppose, community-wise?
I wanted to make a little bit more of like command line, like Linux content, because I feel like that's sort of an area where a lot of people are just like that's not something that I am worthy of knowing, or like it's scary because it's just like a black screen kind of thing. I've been diving into like a lot of like learning. It's like, your basic commands, like something that you would need to know as like a cloud engineer kind of thing. Nothing too crazy. Like I'm not telling you to build your own distro from scratch or anything like that. No, nothing like that. But I wanted to make sort of like a command line series or something like that, in like my style. So I've actually started outlining some things today about that. And the other topic that I'm really interested in is serverless. So it would be Azure Functions, which has always been kind of my go-to service, because it's the service that I use to like pretty much build all the solutions that I did when I was a cloud engineer. So I'm very biased, but now I kind of want to turn it into where it's like full-on projects that I encourage other people to build. Because I think like serverless is one of those things where I think no matter where you're at in your career, you could like ease into it. I think it's easier than like traditional model, because if you're looking to own a solution end to end, you can pretty much build up a serverless model, a serverless thing on your own, kind of. Like that's what I experienced. Like I was like a junior engineer, and in order for me to like work on like all the web apps that they had, I would have to like work with one of the senior engineers, and they were always busy. So I figured, why don't I just make a serverless application that I can sort of integrate in there, and then I wouldn't have to bother them for infrastructure and any of that kind of stuff. So I kind of want to take that approach with another like series. I'm not sure what it'd be around, but the Linux one is probably first. And outside of that, I kind of want to keep exploring this like these video essays and talking about experience more of the human side of tech. And I'll probably like invite some more friends on to talk about their journeys and that kind of thing. I'm trying not to be too structured, because I feel like when I do structure things like too much, that's when I burn out, because it's like, oh, I have all these things to do, right? But I have sort of a feel for what I want to do. And then with a new role, I mean, I can't even like start to imagine like how that's going to impact me. So my own content might need to slow down just a little bit until I get my balance at the new place. But yeah, that's me, I guess, maybe the next couple of months, maybe for the rest of the year.
Excellent. So that's kind of all we have. Gwen, honestly, thank you so much for joining us. Personally, for me, I'm sure everyone will agree, it's been really insightful. We've been big fans for a while, following you on Twitter and your YouTube channel. But for those people that are watching the recording, all of Gwen's socials will be in the description, the YouTube channel, Twitter, etc. So again, thank you very, very much for joining us. Imran, I don't know if there's anything you want to say before we go.
Yeah, I just want to say the same. Thank you very much for joining us. I obviously follow you on Twitter. We don't just say everyone's a role model. There are certain people that we know on Twitter that do so much for the community. They are role models, and you're one of them, definitely.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invite. It's been nice to chat and meet new people. Maybe someday we'll meet in person. Who knows?
Yeah,
but thank you again.
Well, thank you very much, and to everyone watching. So we don't forget we have our user group. So this is going to be the day after this recording is published. So we're all around AWS. We've got some great live demos. So keep an eye out for that. And up until next time, thank you very much. Thanks, Gwyn, and thank you everybody for watching.
Bye.
Bye.